Commissioner Gordon, Bane has escaped.
Progress takes a different shape when you stop treating your life as a chore and start treating it as a strategic campaign. Every day becomes a move on the board. Every choice becomes a calculated upgrade. The mundane transforms into a mission. The obstacles that once felt exhausting start to resemble bosses you were always meant to defeat. Pressure becomes experience points. Discipline becomes skill mastery. Each morning offers a fresh sequence of challenges waiting to be conquered. When you adopt this mindset, boredom loses its influence over your destiny. Procrastination loses its grip. You begin to anticipate effort with the quiet confidence of someone who understands that the path is not punishment. It is the game. A game designed to reward the one who returns to the arena, even when comfort whispers otherwise. Life starts responding differently when you attach meaning to actions that once felt empty. Delayed gratification stops feeling like deprivation and starts feeling like a quest that stores power until you are ready to deploy it. Small actions stop feeling insignificant. They begin stacking like coded upgrades, altering the architecture of your future. One page read becomes a boost. One workout becomes a stat increase. 1 hour of deep work becomes a hidden key that unlocks a new level. When you reframe challenge as progression, you stop expecting overnight transformation. You expect incremental triumphs that accumulate into the person you imagined when you finally decided to take control. A crucial shift happens when you realize that your habits are not random behaviors, but levers connected to identity. Every repetition is a vote for the person you intend to become. Every refusal to quit is a reinforcement of your internal narrative. Every decision to stay disciplined creates psychological evidence that you are no longer who you used to be. Games reward consistency because consistency shapes competence. Your life functions the same way. Show up enough times and your mind begins rewriting the rules around your potential. What once felt impossible becomes familiar. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Leveling up is not an event, it is a rhythm. Challenges deepen your resilience only when you choose to engage with them instead of avoiding them. When you gamify adversity, you strip it of its intimidation. You begin to see it as training. You begin to see friction as an opportunity to gather data about your reactions, your strengths, and your weaknesses. Every setback becomes a tutorial exposing what you failed to master the first time. Every victory becomes confirmation that your evolution is underway. Life runs smoother when you treat your journey as a series of strategic iterations, rather than a single catastrophic test you cannot afford to fail. Rewards shift value when you distribute them with intention. Instead of indulging yourself for temporary pleasure, you begin rewarding effort to reinforce growth. Every milestone gains significance because you linked it to achievement rather than escape. You begin to appreciate the psychology behind incentive. You understand that motivation is unreliable, but momentum is unstoppable. You learn how to trick your brain into desiring discipline through small, well-placed reinforcements. The process becomes addictive, not because it is easy, but because you learn how to control the variables that shape your performance. The mind gains clarity when you turn your environment into a playing field engineered for progress. Games work because they remove distractions and sharpen focus around objectives. Your life needs the same structure. Remove clutter from your surroundings and your attention becomes sharper. Remove toxic influences and your emotional bandwidth becomes wider. Remove pointless tasks and your time becomes your ally instead of your enemy. It is not willpower that changes your life. It is design. When your environment supports your intentions, effort feels natural instead of forced. Identity shifts when you choose roles instead of waiting for them to define you. Every game offers character types that come with strengths and weaknesses. Life reflects that model. You choose whether to become the strategist, the creator, the warrior, the builder. Once you select the archetype, your brain begins reorganizing behaviors to match the identity. This is why reinvention feels impossible until you commit. Once you choose who you are becoming, the mind stops negotiating and starts aligning. You stop running in circles. You start evolving with precision. Momentum becomes inevitable once you build systems that pull you forward instead of relying on motivation to push you. Games reward systems because systems ensure progress regardless of mood. Your life becomes smoother when you replace emotional decision-making with structured routines that activate even when you feel resistance. You begin trusting the process because the process no longer depends on inspiration. It depends on execution. And execution becomes instinctive when the system is crafted intelligently. A deeper transformation begins when you realize that failure is not a verdict but a mechanic. Games expect you to fall. They expect you to learn. They expect you to repeat until mastery emerges. Your life follows the same principle. When you stop attaching shame to mistakes, you unlock a level of resilience that makes reinvention inevitable. You stop fearing the unknown. You stop avoiding challenge. You stop hesitating at the threshold of ambition. Reinvention is the natural side effect of refusing to interpret setbacks as identity statements. Every time you acquire a new ability, something far deeper happens than simple competence. A fresh connection forms inside your mind, a circuit that did not exist the day before. That circuit carries more than information. It carries possibility. It carries a silent message telling you that you are more adaptable than your past ever allowed you to believe. You are not simply learning tasks. You are collecting identity fragments. Each skill becomes a silent anchor stabilizing who you are becoming instead of who you were forced to be. This is why the process feels uncomfortable. Growth always disturbs the version of you that was built for survival, not expansion. But each time you return and repeat, that disturbance becomes a signal of progress, a sign that the old limitations are being replaced by something far sharper. This is the hidden architecture of reinvention, and it is how you begin to gamify your path in a world that rewards transformation. There comes a moment during skill acquisition when confusion transforms into clarity. Before mastery, repetition feels pointless. After mastery, repetition feels like power. What changed? Not the task. You changed. Your brain adjusted to a pattern it once considered foreign. Synapses strengthened. Neural pathways thickened. The fog lifted because you endured long enough for your biology to reconfigure itself around the pursuit. This is the internal upgrade menu you never see but constantly use. Confidence is not a mood. It is a neurological effect created by accumulated wins. No matter how small, when progress becomes tangible, your posture adjusts, your tone deepens, and your presence sharpens. You begin carrying yourself as someone who has evidence, not imagination. This shift is why skills matter. They do more than improve performance. They reshape identity from the inside outward. Specialized knowledge carries a weight that general familiarity can never match. When you commit deeply to a discipline, you stop floating among distractions and start carving a defined path through uncertainty. The world treats you differently when you know something with precision. Your value rises, not because the world suddenly becomes generous, but because capability commands respect in every environment. People sense depth. They sense competence. They sense when you have spent hours in a domain they barely understand. In a game, this is when your character unlocks rare abilities unavailable to the average beginner. In life, This is when doors open without you having to knock, not through luck, through intentional evolution disguised as daily practice. And each time you refine your craft, you reinforce that evolution until it becomes irreversible. Identity recalibration is rarely dramatic. It happens quietly, the same way strength grows beneath the skin long before muscle becomes visible. One day you simply realize you respond differently to stress, uncertainty, pressure, and opportunity. You no longer behave as the untrained version of yourself. Your reactions have matured. Your tolerance has expanded. Your thinking has sharpened. This is what happens when you accumulate skills over months and years. They stack inside you like layers of armor. Not the kind that makes you untouchable, but the kind that makes you unbreakable. Reinvention is not a single transformation. It is a collection of subtle internal upgrades that eventually combine into a new archetype. People will call it a glow-up. They will call it confidence. They will call it discipline. But you will know the truth. It was skill building all along. Mastery rewrites the laws you previously lived under. Before the upgrade, a challenge looked intimidating. After the upgrade, the same challenge looks like training. What changed? Your lens, your internal operating system. You begin approaching life the way seasoned players approach harder levels, with strategy instead of panic, with curiosity instead of fear, because mastery removes the emotional weight of the unknown. The more you know, the less you flinch. The less you flinch, the more you attempt. The more you attempt, the more reward becomes available. This is the compounding loop of personal evolution. Once it begins, it becomes almost impossible to stop. Momentum feeds momentum. Skill feeds identity. Identity feeds action. And action feeds transformation. Every discipline you adopt injects new energy into your perception of possibility. When you commit to learning something difficult, your mind begins operating above its old settings. You notice opportunities you missed before. You detect patterns that were invisible. You hear cues you once ignored. This is why highly skilled individuals navigate the world with precision. They are not gifted, they are upgraded. Their senses sharpen because their brain rewards engagement with complexity. The more complex the skill, the more profound the neurological expansion. This is not fantasy. This is biology responding to challenge. In games, this is when your character unlocks advanced tiers. In life, this is when you stop enduring your story and start rewriting it. Progress accelerates once you understand that skill building is identity building. When you learn a language, you adopt a new worldview. When you learn a craft, you adopt new habits. When you learn a discipline, you adopt new standards. The process alters more than your competence. It alters your character. This is why certain people become unrecognizable after a few years of focused improvement. The world sees the upgrade. Only they understand the grind that produced it. Behind every reinvention is a long list of skills acquired quietly, consistently, deliberately. Every one of them added a layer to the new persona. Every one of them removed a layer from the old. Competence collapses fear faster than motivation ever could. When you know what you're doing, hesitation evaporates. When you understand the mechanics behind what once intimidated you, your nervous system calms itself. You reclaim your agency. You reclaim your direction. You reclaim your narrative. This is why skill building is the backbone of self-transformation. Without it, your confidence is artificial. With it, your confidence is earned, and earned confidence is permanent. It survives failure. It survives criticism. It survives doubt. It survives anything that once made you retreat, because capability gives you the psychological foundation to stand again and again without breaking. The person you want to become cannot be unlocked through thought alone. Thought creates vision. Vision creates emotion. But only skill creates reality. You must repeatedly choose improvement over identity preservation. You must repeatedly invest in abilities that sharpen your trajectory. Every skill you gain becomes a small rebellion against the limitations you inherited. A rebellion so quiet nobody notices it happening until the day you walk into a room with a presence that surprises even you. This is why upgrading matters. You are preparing yourself for a future your old self could not survive. Every challenge that rises before you carries a message your old identity wants to ignore. It is easier to label difficulty as punishment than to recognize it as progression. Yet every obstacle stands exactly where an outdated version of you would collapse. That is why it appears. It is not there to stop you. It is there to reveal the ceiling you must break. Games teach this truth with brutal honesty. The moment the boss becomes impossible is the moment the player is closest to leveling up. Difficulty is not cruelty. Difficulty is calibration. When resistance increases, it means your narrative is shifting. It means your character sheet is updating. It means your future self is calling you forward, and your past self is trying to hold you back. And if you understand this, then each setback becomes confirmation that evolution is already underway. When life tightens its grip, many assume something has gone wrong. But nothing in nature expands without pressure. A seed splits, a muscle tears, a diamond forms in conditions that would crush anything unprepared. The intensity you feel is not a cosmic rejection. It is friction announcing growth. In games, friction means you have entered a zone meant for upgraded players only. You do not receive these challenges at level 1. You receive them only after proving you can handle more. So when resistance grips your routine and drags you out of familiarity, understand the hidden message. You have entered the next stage. The story is deepening. Your abilities must match it. And the discomfort is your cue that this is exactly where transformation becomes unavoidable. Some obstacles arrive disguised as delays. Your plans stall. Your vision hesitates. Your momentum slows. But within these pauses lies a psychological checkpoint. The game tests whether your commitment was desire or identity. Anyone can continue when progress is obvious. Only a developing character continues when progress is invisible. That is why obstacles feel personal. They force you to confront the version of you who would prefer shortcuts. They expose the gap between intention and execution. Yet the moment you choose persistence over frustration, you unlock a new endurance you did not possess before. Checkpoints are not halts, they are scans. They verify whether you are carrying the mindset required for the level ahead. Then there are obstacles built entirely from your mind's old architecture. Fear, hesitation, doubt, avoidance. These are not external enemies. They are internal bosses guarding the gate between who you were and who you aim to become. Every time you push through one of these psychological barriers, the brain rewires itself slightly. It begins associating action with safety instead of danger, with momentum instead of paralysis. In games, the toughest bosses guard the most valuable treasure. In your life, the most intimidating challenge usually guards the version of yourself you always wanted to meet. The resistance you feel is not proof you are failing. It is proof you have arrived at a meaningful threshold. Certain challenges appear repeatedly, almost as if life refuses to let you pass. It is not repetition. It is curriculum. You are being trained, not tortured. Recurring obstacles mean you have the power to advance, but the habit to retreat. So life brings the lesson back, each time slightly sharper, each time slightly louder, until you respond with the conviction required to graduate. Once you overcome a pattern like this, you never face it again with the same fear. The internal map updates. Your character upgrades. And future versions of you walk with a kind of certainty only born from battles won in silence. Resistance grows harsher at the moment before breakthrough. Anyone who has trained, created, built, or rebuilt their life understands this rhythm. The struggle spikes, not because you are unprepared, but because you are aligned. Momentum reaches a point where the past must erupt in one last attempt to hold you. This is the same phenomenon in games when the final boss unleashes its most overwhelming attack just before defeat. It is not coincidence, it is pattern. When obstacles become overwhelming, you are not being pushed out. You are being pushed through. That surge of pressure is evolution loading in real time. Every obstacle you conquer evolves your perception. You begin to recognize resistance as guidance, not rejection. You start deciphering patterns in the chaos. You notice that difficulty spikes only when you are close to unlocking a new psychological toolkit. Instead of shrinking, you lean in. Instead of withdrawing, you analyze. Instead of quitting, you adapt. This is what it means to gamify your path. You treat life as a series of strategic encounters, each demanding a new skill, a refined mindset, or a tougher discipline. And every time you emerge from one of these encounters, the world feels slightly smaller because you have grown larger inside. There is power in realizing that obstacles shape your storyline more than victories. Wins decorate the journey. Struggles define it. When you survive pressure, you earn perspective. When you navigate difficulty, you build emotional intelligence. When you triumph over internal resistance, you gain access to parts of yourself you never knew existed. In games, these shifts unlock new areas on the map. In life, they unlock new areas in the mind. With every challenge overcome, your worldview expands, your ambition sharpens, your tolerance thickens. You do not simply get better. You become someone who cannot return to who you once were. Eventually, you recognize that obstacles are the only honest feedback system life uses. They tell you where you are underdeveloped. They tell you where you are evolving. They tell you where you are resisting your own potential. People who avoid obstacles avoid their storyline. They remain unfinished characters trapped in early levels. But those who continue forward, even when discouraged, discover that resistance eventually bends to consistency. This is not motivational fantasy. It is the architecture of human adaptation. And once you understand this architecture, you stop flinching at hardship. You start reading it. Failure in life has a gravity that most misinterpret. They feel the drop, the sting, the collapse of expectation, and assume the universe has delivered a verdict on their potential. But in every immersive game, failure serves a different function. It provides direction. It exposes the pattern you missed, the timing you misread, the detail you ignored. It hands you data you never would have gathered without encountering resistance. Life operates with the same brutal honesty. Each setback is a packet of information disguised as disappointment. Each loss is a transcript of what your current identity cannot yet execute. If you study that transcript, you no longer see failure as condemnation. You see it as calibration. You see that every mistake is a map pointing toward a more intelligent version of you. And this shift is the beginning of self-reinvention. This is where gamify your life and reinvent yourself becomes more than ambition. It becomes a method. Loss reshapes your architecture more efficiently than comfort ever will. When everything goes according to plan, your mind relaxes into predictable loops. Nothing new is demanded. Nothing new is learned. But the moment something breaks, the moment you miscalculate, the moment you walk into a situation unprepared, your awareness spikes, your senses widen. Your brain begins searching for patterns to prevent the same pain twice. This is neuroplasticity under pressure. This is an upgrade sequence hidden inside discomfort. Games reveal this truth openly. Every defeat is followed by a respawn equipped with better knowledge.